commenter asked me what I thought about UFOs, Roswell, cover-ups, conspiracies, all that stuff. I copied the comment into my journal because I thought it was a good comment, but I cannot find the original one to stitch it. But they basically say, I'm just wondering if you've any videos on Roswell, aliens, NHI cover-up. Sometimes I think this topic is all nonsense used to influence the masses on things like defense bill spending, and then I look into it and all I find is evidence of cover-ups. And evidence of cover-ups to me feels like it's real. What do you think? Firstly, I'll say your take makes total sense, and you're not alone in feeling torn between this feels like nonsense and wait, if there's a cover-up, doesn't that mean something's real? This push-pull is exactly how a lot of people feel, and there's a psychology behind this. Yes, rhetoric around aliens, UFOs, has been used by government and intelligence agencies to distract you from real stuff, like wars and tech testing and political scandals. Yes, UFO panic has been used to justify huge budgets in things like defense and aerospace projects, because you agree with the need to investigate any unknown aerial threats. Also, leaking is information warfare. Some truth mixed with fiction creates confusion. This is known as perception management, and it's been a tool of US intelligence agencies since before the Cold War. So yes, UFO stories get weaponized, but cover-ups indicate something real. That's a totally fair thought. There have been real sightings of unexplained aircraft. There has been the development of real secret technologies, like experimental aircraft. And there have been real incidents. Roswell likely involved balloon surveillance technology, and the US did not want the Soviets to know. There's also been real interest by credible people. Pilots, intelligence officials, people reporting on stuff that they cannot explain. So yes, some of it is real, but that does not mean little green alien men. There's been a long pattern of secrecy, but the things that are being hidden and obscured are usually advanced human technologies, USA surveillance projects, psychological operations, or yes, possibly, something not human. Why are UFOs such a big deal in the United States, though? Strange sightings in the sky and non-human contact are global, ancient, and cultural phenomenons. Europeans report UFO sightings, but they usually treat it like the weather. Odd, but whatever. Governments like France, they literally have open databases where you can go and record your UFO sighting, but they treat this as aviation safety, not existential threat. There's far less obsession over alien coverage in Europe. In China, there's literally zero public discourse around UFOs, but they also have tightly controlled media and speech. The government does study sightings, but it's wrapped in military secrecy. It's not mainstream pop fascination. In India, the cultural lens is totally different, and things get interpreted first more through a spiritual or religious framework. Sky beings. There's a lot less government talk about UFOs and aliens, but that doesn't mean there's no interest. It's just that sky beings are not that shocking in a society that grew up reading stories like the Mahabharata epic, which includes lots of flying vehicles and cosmic weapons. But the fact that other countries aren't freaking out in the same way is not a reason to dismiss the US obsession. It is a reason to look closely at what exactly are Americans reacting to. Are they reacting to the phenomena or the narratives around it? The alien narrative as we know it today is mostly a 20th century invention. It was shaped by Cold War fears, media, and secrecy. A lot of the don't tell the public was don't let Russia find out. And that breeds room for interpretation, which the state is okay with. It still deflects from them. Before 1900, there's not really a lot of recorded reference to UFOs or aliens specifically. There's a lot of reference to angels and gods and spirits and sky beings. In ancient time, any kind of weird lights or sky phenomena gets interpreted through religion and myth. In ancient Rome, they were omens. In medieval Europe, they were angels or demons. In India, they were manas, devas in flying machines. And before you ask, I already want to make a whole video about devas in flying machines and Indian myths because they're so interesting. But anyway, even Native Americans had trickster spirits and sky people, but they perceived them as ancestors, not invasion colonizing force. Nobody really thinks before 1900 that aliens from another planet are spying or connecting or colonizing you. It's just not words we use because the idea didn't exist in the public mind yet. So there's still things in the sky, they're just not explained as aliens. In 1897, the airship mystery spreads across American newspapers. It's reports of a cigar-shaped object with, quote, human-looking pilots. In 1898, H.G. Wells published War of the Worlds. Later, in 1938, this H.G. Wells story gets broadcast and allegedly caused mass panic. This is a well-known folk story, but I use the word allegedly because I haven't researched it. Was it mass panic? They present this fiction story as if it's a newstime bulletin, and it describes aliens landing in New Jersey and using rays to vaporize people. Some listeners missed the opening disclaimer that this was fiction, and police stations and news outlets across the country get flooded with phone calls and letters. Some people even thought it was the Germans invading. Later research then proved that this panic was actually not that massive. People are not as stupid as they are perceived to be. Yeah, some people got confused, but most people knew aliens were not invading New Jersey. But newspapers at the time hammed this up because they are in competition with the radio. And they want you to feel this, look what radio can do. It can make you believe anything. It's so dangerous. Kind of like people talk about AI now. Stay focused on the aliens. We're not going down the AI road. I'm just personally drawing a parallel here. That is the same way they're framing this new technology as the newspapers framed radio. The lesson here is not about aliens. It's about media power. It teaches us that people are primed to believe fucking anything if it's coming from somewhere that they believe is a trustworthy source. Fiction, when delivered like fact, bypasses critical thinking. And alien stories tap into a deep fear, invasion, loss of control. And this is exactly the kind of media moment that cements aliens as part of this modern myth, particularly in the United States. The idea of advanced beings is still fiction, but it gets blended with real science and public imagination. And then in 1947, everything explodes. Pilot Kenneth Arnold sees flying saucers at Mount Rainier. This is the first documented use of that term. Something crashes in New Mexico, and initial reports say flying disc. That is later retracted, but then it's too late to matter. The newspapers go wild, and suddenly UFOs are national news. And the UFO narrative goes mainstream, and the US public never get a real answer about Roswell. Roswell was most likely a high-altitude US balloon surveillance program. It was called Project Mogul, and the UFO story is a clumsy cover-up, a convenient myth that spirals out of control. But there are some weird edges. July 1947, a rancher named Mac Brazel is the first to find strange debris near Roswell. He reports it to the local sheriff, who tells the army at Roswell, and the army release a press release. So the army released this first reference of flying disc, or AAF captures flying disc on ranch in Roswell region. Boom. Hits newspapers all over the country, and flying saucer goes national because the army are a credible source, right? Well, 24 hours later, they actually walk that statement back and they admit it's just a weather balloon. And they even publish photos of a very sheepish looking army officer with the weather balloon. But it doesn't matter. We don't talk about the 24-hour later army rollback on the mention of flying disc. It's too late. And out spawns 30 years of conspiracy. Project Mogul at Roswell was a classified US Army Air Force project to detect Soviet nuclear threats.